Let's kick this episode off with just as kind of a simple question of who you are now is a realtor for, athletes, and you help people in the Austin area get investment properties. You're an investor yourself. You've done the house hacking strategy. You understand a little bit about the new build process, which can be very overwhelming and confusing for a lot of people, man. Like, that's something I haven't even really tapped into that much. I'm just now getting into it. And it's a lot of pieces to a new build. But before you got to this point, man, where you're selling where you're selling, professional soccer players' homes, who were you, and how did you get to this point right now? I want to hear a little bit about your story up until this point. Who were you before all of this?
Let's start off with the first job, selling knives, Cutco at 16. And I really liked the fact that I didn't really have a boss and I could choose the amount of money I made. There was no ceiling, And then let's fast forward 3 years. University of Texas at Austin, I needed to find a way to pay for college. And the thing is, at 19, I didn't want to have a boss, nor did I want someone to cap the amount of money that I could make. Very hard as a 19-year-old. And the thing that came up was real estate. So I decided to be a leasing agent. I helped a ton of students find apartments. Those apartments would pay me when I brought the students. And that's how I was able to pay for all of my college. That's 4 years. But in between that time, it was crazy.
You paid for all of your college with leasing apartment buildings?
Yeah, it was crazy.
That's sick.
Dude, I love talking
How
to
did you
people.
recruit these people?
Groups. I would freaking go join. I was part of the soccer team. I was in a business fraternity. I would go out a lot. So I would enjoy party, but then also when I worked, it was grind. So it was insane. So but I learned a lot about work.
With someone. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you'd be drinking. The vision that popped into my head is you'd be drinking a drink with someone and be like, by the way, I have a place for you to live. Is that kind of how it went down?
Oh, 100%. Picture just at a bar, college students, everyone's just having fun, and it's oh, housing. Oh my gosh, I don't know where I'm going to live next year. And I have buddies. Everyone knows someone. So the conversation would always come up naturally. And I was always perfect. Let's go tour these places. I know the exact places that you
That's awesome, man.
need. Yes, it was great. I mean, I loved it. And I've always loved being with people. So it was perfect for me. Don't get me wrong. The first year was so hard because I was helping students that would usually bring their parents. Picture a 19-year-old, no beard, just kind of, where am I taking these people? And oh my gosh, I'd get so nervous because I'd talk to the parents and be like, trust me, I'm going to help your kid find a place. So it was very nerve-wracking at first. And then at the age of 21, one of those leases that I had helped referred me over to someone that was looking to buy, but I didn't know they were looking to buy. So I call them and they're like, hey, my budget's $1 million to $3 million. And I said, I can totally help you. I hang up and I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? So a lot of limiting beliefs come in, and long story short, I was able to help this person close on a $1 million property and made $20,000 to $30,000 in commission. So that was insane. And that opened my eyes to there's more to this than meets the eye. And then I graduated at 23. A lot of people told me I shouldn't stick with real estate. I decided to stick with it, even though everyone else was get a stable job, W-2. Stuck with real estate. Joined an amazing team, Diego Corzo. I met him, joined his team. We're now business partners, so that was great. And from 23 to 20, now I'm 28. I've helped about 140 families, which has amounted to about $85 million in volume. So it's been great, honestly. There was a lot of struggles in between those moments, but that's a long story short. But those struggles helped me become what is right now,
We'll get into some of those struggles, man. I want to talk about the mold issue in your new build and some money that was lost on that. I want to talk about some of maybe your personal struggles that you've gone through in this journey. But before we dive into those, I've got to ask you the question that's on every teenager's mind right now that's on social media and hearing things about college, whether they should go or they should not go. So you did college, you graduated, and now you are an entrepreneur essentially. So
yes,
are you glad you went to college? Was that a good investment? Would you say that's a bad investment? What advice would you give to someone who's looking at doing that or not doing that for their kids, for their families, or if they're listening to this and they're thinking about, do I go to college? Do I not? Do I take out the loan? Do I not? Do I invest the money or not?
I'd say this, you can pay for college if you put your mind to it. And it sounds so cliche, but there's always a way to find money through either scholarships or you working. And I know it might be different. I'm 18, 19, but that's what the limiting mindset of the normal person will tell you. which is complete BS. There's ways to do so. I know at a younger age, it might not sound like if it's possible, but it is. I'll say this, college for me taught me how to be way more street smart than I was. Business school didn't really teach me anything. So I could have probably not done with business school because I was in international business and I honestly didn't really learn much at all. But the street smart of it, through the job that I had, because I learned how to grind because I needed to pay for college, and the fact that I was in a lot of positions. In my business fraternity, I was like the activities chair or whatever. And I had to negotiate with like clubs to let freaking people come in and organize everything. I learned how to negotiate. The biggest thing I learned from though were my internships. When I was a freshman, I had an internship in Juarez and I had to drive after going from summer. I was in El Paso in the summer, my freshman year, and I had classes at the University of UTEP. And then I had to drive to Mexico. So my day would start like at 7 a.m. and it would end like at 8 p.m. coming back from Mexico to the US.
Wow.
That taught me so much, man, like internships, because it's hands-on experience. It taught me that I didn't want to do supply chain firstly. And then after that, I had an internship in Austin, which was great for real estate. Then an internship in Houston for commercial real estate. Internships is what will teach you hands-on. For me, college wasn't worth it, but because I did business, maybe if you're in another major, it'll help you.
So what I'm hearing is that there's a lot of power to doing college and finding a way to not go into debt for it, but finding a way to pay for it, getting scrappy with that, similar to you. And to do that, you have to have jobs. To do that, you have to have internships. And so that was where a lot of the learning came from for you.
Oh yeah, way more than college, being in class and not really doing anything, just reading books. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, before we go to one of your struggles, and I do want to talk a little bit about house hacking too. A big part of my audience is house hacking. They're trying to create financial freedom through room rentals or co-living, whatever you want to call it, shared housing. But I want to circle back around to that call that you got that said, "Hey, I have a budget of $1 to $3 million. How can you help me?" And you said, "Yes, I can." Right? What was it in you that kind of stood up to say, "Yes, I can," even though you had never done that before? And what were those limiting beliefs and how did you overcome them in that moment?
Look, if I'm being frank with you, I didn't overcome them. I was just like, I want to do this because I know I can. But at the same time, it's like, how the hell am I going to do this? I'm so happy that I had, without even knowing about mindset or anything back in the day. If you would have told me about mindset, I would have been like, you're insane. Like, what are you talking about? I just said yes because I was like, I can figure things out. At that age, I was, and right now I'm still like, I can figure these things out. But dude, when I answered, I was so nervous. And when like, this is me. Picture just college, you're at a dorm and you're in the cafeteria with all your friends. You get a call from a random number. I pick it up, I send up, like, hey, what's up, Andres? And like a very posh voice, like it's a Mexican guy, a fresa voice. That's how we say it. Like, Andres, I'm looking for like $1 million to $3 million. And I stand up and when you can tell someone's facial expression changes. And I left my friends and they're like, what's going on? So I'm like, yeah, I can help you. I hang up the call and I'm like, right as I hang up, the limiting belief is coming in that it's like, what did I just sign up for? And the first tour that I took because I had the limiting belief 100%, I didn't really overcome it right then and there. But it was as I took the steps to learning more and more, I became more and more confident, because I didn't overcome it at that time right away. And it was more so through the fact that the first tour that I did with this person, he asked me what the HOA was. And I was like, there's no HOA. And that's when I realized, okay, there definitely is an HOA in a condo association. So I learned that I can't do this on my own, firstly. And I was like, I need a partner with the best person in my agency that will allow me to shadow them. So I immediately called them, like, who's the best person that we have? And I told them, look, you're going to allow me to shadow you, but this is my client and this is what we're going to do. And I partnered with that person and I learned so much from that. But I needed to take a step back and say, I can't let my own ego be the reason why someone might not make the best financial decision possible. So I learned a lot because I said I wanted someone to help me out with this,
Wow.
And that helped me overcome that limiting belief a bit.
Dude, that takes a lot of humility. I find even in my own journey, if I'm coming up similar to what you just said, like it's easier for me to call people that are like not as far on the success journey. It's easy for me to call those people because they feel safe, right? They feel comfortable. But to call like a mentor or someone that's way further ahead sometimes takes a lot of like courage, and it can be a little scary.
Yeah, it was
so
scary.
Kudos to you for doing that. It's a
Thank
great
you.
lesson for
Appreciate
people to
it.
learn that. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your house hacking. You did some house hacking out of college. Tell me a little bit about that and maybe why you did that and how it helped you in that season of getting out of college.
So it was 2020 and I'd been renting, and the reality is I was an agent. I've been an agent since I was 19. I was 23. And for me, the reality was, if I'm telling people to buy, why don't I have a property? And I had just started full time. So I'm like, I need to buy a property right away and try to offset my income as fast as possible. The thing is, I had a lease. So I needed to find a way to firstly not be paying on top of the lease. What did I find? I found a new build. And with new builds, the great thing is that you can put a deposit and you lock that home's price with a deposit. It's known as an earnest money deposit. And it can be anywhere from $500 to maybe 5% of the purchase price. It depends on the builder. So I found a build that coincided somewhat with my lease timeline. I put the deposit, locked the price at 286, closed about 3 months later or 4 months later. That also allowed me to save up a little more down payment. And within that time, those 4 months, the home appreciated like 15, 20K, which is back in 2020 when things were appreciating. So I closed on a home, didn't have to compete because I just put a deposit. The new builds offer here in Texas a 10-to-1 warranty, 10 years for your structure, 2 years for HVAC, electric, plumbing, and 1 year for your craftsmanship. And they also offer lender incentives. If you go with the builder's preferred lender, because it keeps everything in-house, you get money towards closing costs or a rate buy down. So I was like, dude, this is perfect. So I bought that new build and lived with 3 roommates. It was a 4 beds, 3.5 baths home.
Did those 3 roommates cover your mortgage? Did they pay enough to cover your mortgage, or did
They
you
covered the whole mortgage, and I had $300 in cash, or 200 or 300. And given that I'm an agent, goes hand in hand. They saw the power of wealth creation. All of them have bought with me. One of them has bought 2 homes with
all
me.
All 3 of those roommates bought with you? That's great.
Dude, it's a cycle. You teach them enough, they see the power through doing, and people go with you through it,
Man, it's such a powerful strategy. I was on a podcast earlier today, and this lady, Haley, was just saying, like, I don't understand why more people don't house hack, why they don't get into this journey through house hacking. Why don't people do this more?
Education, number one. A lot of people are misinformed. So it's all about us as agents. We have a lot of hats: the educator, the storyteller, the problem solver. So it's more so education than also a limiting belief, because the society as a whole in the US is like, hey, keep renting, do this and that. And sometimes renting makes sense. Don't get me wrong. As long as you're educated and you can make the decision between renting and buying, if you're educated, then that's when it makes sense. But if you do it because the societal norm is you should be renting, then that's horrible, because you're not doing yourself a favor, So I think it's the societal norms and also the fact that not a lot of people are educated.
I know you help a lot of people in Austin get educated. I've seen, I followed you on Instagram. You're always sharing different tips and things like that. So, man, thanks for being part of the solution to that and getting people educated on what, how easy it can be.
Yeah.
If it's a primary residence, man, it can be so easy to buy a house, right?
Oh, 100%. 3% down, you can 5% down payment assistance. There's so many things that can be done. I mean, VAs on a VA loan, I had someone buy a home and they got money back at closing. So it's all about being smart with these things,
Tell me a little bit about down payment assistance. I'm not super familiar with that. Are there just programs out there? Does it depend on income? What do you know about that?
Exactly. It depends on the income. And then also there's different loans, like a USDA loan. If you're outside of the city limits, you can do a 0% down loan. And if you go with the lender, they pay you part of the closing costs and you can get everything covered. You may even get money at closing. I mean, it's pretty insane, but it's a reality, You have to make sacrifices in order to later down the line live the life that you dream of. So people are going to complain, oh, I don't want to have a roommate and this and that. Well, that's a reality. Live with it. That's what's going to have to happen. Or maybe you can get a duplex, triplex, fourplex, So that's the thing as well. A lot of the times it's like people don't want to be uncomfortable to later on live that comfortable life. And if you don't want to do that, well, look, the decisions you make are the reason why you are where you're at. I always tell people like that, because I'm upfront, If you complain, it's like, if you're complaining, what decisions are you making? What habits are you doing every morning? That'll tell me why you're complaining,
Wow. Wow. That's so well said, man. That's so well said. Well, speaking of that, so you had an issue with your new build. I don't know if this was the new build you're talking about. Tell us a little bit about some of the struggles as an investor that you've had. I know you mentioned mold in a new build, and I think mold is a scary word for a lot of investors. So tell us a little bit about that and how you overcame that.
For sure. And then one other thing I want to touch on new builds. Builders usually build in phases. So if we're talking about first phase, there might be 100 homes. Next phase, 50 homes, and so forth. If you can get in on the earlier phases of a build, appreciation of a home is based on what other homes sell for. Picture you get in on phase 1, and then there's 4 more phases. And similar floor plans. Every similar home that sells probably sells for a higher price. Your appreciation potential is massive if you get on phase 1. So that's what I did. I got in on phase 1 of a new build area. It's Cloverleaf here in Austin, and the price was insane. I got a 3.5% interest rate. It's great. But I made a big mistake, and I'm happy I learned it on my own house. I didn't get an inspection for it, third-party inspection. We're human at the end of the day, so I didn't get an inspection. My tenants are about to move 3 months after I had closed on, or 2 months after I had closed on the property. They're doing like the inventory and conditions form, and they see some water, and they're like, Andres, what is this? And I'm like, oh, it's probably nothing, but I'll get someone to check it. There was a punctured line 4 months back from one of the builders that was nailing some nails into the house or something. Punctured line, tenants didn't move in, a month and a half out of pocket for whatever I had to do because I had to be paying the mortgage, obviously. The builder, yes, they covered remodeling, whatever, but I had to be paying the mortgage out of my pocket. Thankfully, I got loss of rental insurance, but still I had to pay out of pocket. A month and a half later, another freaking leak on the other side with another nail. Bro, it was one of the most frustrating things I've ever gone through. And that's a blessing to be able to say that because I know people go through worse things. So it was very frustrating, but I mean, this was just a testament to getting that inspection. And in 3 months of me paying the mortgage out of pocket, it sucked. I was so pissed. And that was one of the horror stories that I had because it was in total it was like 5 months because it was vacant for like a month and a half or so. So 5 months of paying a mortgage on a new build, and I have other
a brand new home.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Imagine a brand new home. I was so mad.
And so if you could have done that all over again, what would an inspection have caught that, do you think? Like a third-party inspection
Definitely.
on the home?
And it's like this. This is what I tell people. Would you rather pay $300 to be sure that nothing's going to happen, or would you rather risk not paying $300 and maybe getting a $5,000 mistake down the line? So those are the questions that I now ask people that I've learned from my own mistakes. But with that, 100% get on inspection. If you buy a new home, things will come up. That's inevitable. We're all human. So learn that way.
I think it's good advice. I've done that a couple of times too, where I just said, oh, I know houses really, really well, and I didn't get an inspection. And there's a lot of things that can happen. So it kind of goes back to your first point that you made in this podcast, man, where you were like, hey, I decided to partner with someone. Getting an inspection is a version of partnering with someone in a way that like helps you, and supports you. Just starting to recognize, I think, when you get outside of your own head, and as you've mentioned so well, like your own ego, and you start saying, I do need help. I do want other people's opinions on these things. I think that's really, really, really important. But how did you what was it about you or your upbringing? I follow you on Instagram. You've always got really encouraging and positive things to say to people. How is it that you're that way? What made you that way? Why do you decide to be that way? And what advice would you have for someone that's trying to be more like that in their own life?
It all starts with family, like my upbringing. I'm super blessed. My parents are incredible human beings, both from Mexico, first generation, incredible people. And they worked very hard. And then also I would say as well, the people I've surrounded myself with. Like I'm very blessed to have had people like Diego Corzo, Victor Nino be my mentors. It's something that was attracted through mutual energy that was put out. So with this, incredible. And I know I owe it to other people because that was given to me. I really believe in that. Like I know I owe it to other people because if it was given to me and I don't give back like that, I'd be horrible. Not horrible, but that's how I see it. Like I have to give that back. And I love doing that. So I'm super happy. And then one thing I will also say with being an entrepreneur, it can be a huge struggle. And you have to be at peace in your mind. You're not always going to be at peace, but you have to be at the best vibration possible. How do you do that? A morning routine. I don't know about you, Sam, but a morning routine, if I don't do my morning routine, like I don't exercise, if I don't go to the gym in the morning or visualize or meditate, and I don't always do this, but I try to do it as much as possible, I know my vibration and energy levels are different. So that's one thing that I will say that has helped me a ton, is just like that morning routine, the people I surround myself with, and being grateful for things. It puts you at a different vibe and a different mindset, and people can tell with energy. Have you ever gone into a room, Sam, and you can get a vibe of the energy people give off? That's kind of how it is, I feel.
Tell us about your morning routine, man. I think, my morning routine has changed a lot through the years, and there's definitely times where I'm on the wagon. There's definitely times where I'm off the wagon. I'm just getting up and sleeping and getting up and going to work. And so, and I think probably everybody can relate to that, but tell me about what's in yours, and what do you think is most important for people who are looking to create one or have one or even just start one?
Yeah, the big misconception here is that you have to wake up like at freaking 4 a.m. No, dude, it can just be 20 minutes of your morning. If you wake up normally at 7 a.m., wake up at 6:40. It's that simple. But for mine, it consists of, from Hal Elrod's book, The Miracle Morning, which has helped me tremendously, it's the savers, like scribing, write down things that you're grateful for. And like, I have it on my notebook, like things that I'm grateful for here, the top 3 things, and my tasks as well. So I write down the 3 things that I'm grateful for in the morning. I go to the gym, let's start off. Okay. I wake up 5:50 in the morning. I get to the gym by 6 a.m., do about an hour of the gym, get home, take a cold shower. I'm going to do my visualizations, my meditations, my scribing. Reading has been the one that's somewhat there. That one, the one that I feel like is the one that's a bit more challenging. I do those things, and then it's usually around 7:40 a.m. or 8 a.m. by that time. And then I know my top 3 tasks, so I do 15 minutes of my number 1 task that I have to do. And if I feel like I want to keep doing it, I keep doing it. If not, I go and get breakfast. So I just want to have us start at my top task of the day. And if I'm like, dude, I'm in the vibe, let's go, I'm going to keep going at it. But if not, I'm going to go get breakfast and take a mini break from my routine. And then I hit the ground running right after, once I finish my breakfast. Sometimes I actually don't eat breakfast. I'm pretty maniac with that stuff. But I'm always on the go, dude. Like, ask anyone that knows me. It's like so much going on, which is a blessing. Sometimes, though, it can be very draining, though. And that's why I feel like the gym is so important, and having my time in the morning.
Yeah. Do you do anything at the evening as a routine, or is it only your morning routine?
My evening routine is way more lax. It's more so by 8 p.m. I try and get off of social media. I also don't you won't see me on social media until 10 a.m. So I'm not going to get on Instagram or anything until 10 a.m. My evening routine is by 8 p.m. I try not to use my phone. No more social media, though, that's for sure, like by 8 p.m. And then I write down my 3 things that I need to get done for tomorrow. Like my top 3 goals, top 3 tasks that'll get me closer to my goals. Because I know when I wake up what I'm shooting for, as opposed to waking up and being like, shit, what do I have to do today? It helps tremendously. But if I tell you I have an evening routine where I meditate and stuff, no, that's a lie. It's just very simple. Like, try not to use my phone, and then my top 3 tasks.
Even just getting off of social media, man, is a big thing. I mean, there's a lot of people out there right now that the first thing they do when they get up is they jump on social media.
Such a drainer, dude. Yeah. Such a drain. Honestly, social media, I sometimes wish I didn't have it, because it's, oh my gosh, the comparison game with that. And then just in general, I think social media for a lot of the parts is bad. On the education side, it's great. I don't get me wrong. I get 3 to 5 clients a week through social media. It can be incredible, but sometimes I definitely do feel the strain from social media, to where I feel like I'm comparing myself to other people. And then also just in general, like seeing a lifestyle that's not really the reality for some people, it gets in your head. So social media, I feel like, can be bad. It can also be pretty good. Just know how to use it.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. That's really powerful. Man, tell me a little bit about your vision for the future for you personally, and kind of maybe like how you set goals and what you're looking to accomplish in the next 5 to 10 years.
For sure. For one big thing for me this year was on the investment side. I haven't been investing as much. And for me, I'm fine with that, because active income has been incredible. It's been a blessing. I'm actually buying a condo in Puerto Rico, right next to Diego, by the way. So that's going to be awesome. I'm closing on it this month. That's one of the plans. And then buying a house in London as well, because I'm a huge Arsenal fan. That's Arsenal right there. They're a soccer team over there in London. The big goal with the real estate side of things is growing the team more, and then also helping athletes from Arsenal or sports teams. I'm a huge sports guy. That's why you see me with sports jerseys all the time on my videos, because that's a clientele that I kind of want to attract. And then I also help the MLS athletes in Austin. Austin FC is the soccer team here. That's my vision through real estate. So helping those athletes, educating them on wealth, because dude, believe it or not, having worked with them, it's crazy. A lot of people don't really know what wealth can do. And we're one injury away from, hey, maybe your salary's cut in a year. And soccer, bro, is brutal. Like football, how we call it over here. It can be brutal. They can transfer you within a day's notice. And I've seen it because my friends are now those athletes. And I'm like, dude, you guys need to learn about wealth when you have that money. So that's one thing I'm very passionate about. And then also on the video creating side, I really love creating videos. And that's how I mainly get more clients and educate more people. Before it was like open houses or this, and that. And this year I made it a thing. I'm going to do it through videos. And that also builds my credibility of whenever I go and talk to brokerages or anyone about real estate or social media, a lot of people look at my social media first. Like, social media, the reality is it's a new resume. For me, if someone tells me, hey, Sam Wegert's going to be talking to us, I'll probably look you up and be like, oh, okay, this is awesome. This person does what he talks about, And that's the big thing that I realized. If I want to be helping these athletes, if I want to be speaking more because I love public speaking, if I want to be speaking more on stage, this and that, I feel like my social media has to grow a bit more. That might not be the reality, but I feel like that's the way that it's kind of going towards. So that's really how I see it. Attracting more of the athletes through the social media, building my brand through that, buying that house in London, and doing more of the public speaking gigs. That's kind of how I see it.
That's really cool, man. I love it. What's your recommendation as we kind of wrap up here? I want to kind of ask you a couple more questions. What's your recommendation for someone who's getting into goal setting and how they should start thinking about goals?
I would say it from the aspect of kind of reverse engineering. For me, I'll give you an example. When I was on social media, I would say, oh, I want to get 5 clients. And then I would put a video out and I was like, but what do I talk about? Like what should I say? And then when I started I want to get 5 clients, but my target audience is people under their 30s that have a limiting belief that aren't as educated, about 20% down, and this and that. So when I started with the goal in mind, like if you're starting with your goal in mind or with your target audience, it's like, how do you attract these people? So it's more so start with the big goal in mind, and then you branch out and see, okay, what do I need to get done to get closer to that? What's the first step that will then branch out into this? With goal setting, and honestly, the reality as well with this, those goals will move because I goal set, but then they move a lot, like with the Go Abundance people. Like we do the one sheet and that can move. A lot of people are like, oh, I didn't achieve this and that. But dude, what did you learn from it? So with goals, know that they can move, but you actually have to, it's better if you have an idea of what you want, and the how sometimes will come, even if you don't know it right now, So start with the big goal in mind and then just branch out from there. That's what has helped me.
That's beautiful, man. And final question for you before I just want you to share a little bit about your team in Austin and what you're doing there and how you help people and then how people can get in touch with you. But before I go into that, for someone who's looking to start the journey of real estate investing, but they haven't had the courage to pull the trigger yet on it. Maybe they woke up and realized they're just working their grind and they want their way out and they think real estate's it. What advice do you have for that newbie investor on how to get started and just how to take that leap of faith to get into an asset class like real estate, which is traditionally in the past, it feels like hard to get into, right? It's not, that you educate people, it's not, but for a lot of people it does. So what advice would you have for them?
What I would say is with this, there's so much one can read about books, educating and this and that. It's not until you get your foot through the door that you'll really know how it is. And it doesn't just have to be you. You can always get into a partnership. You can always join like-minded individuals and masterminds. The one thing that I feel like a lot of people don't have, unfortunately, is a group of like-minded individuals that want to do the same. So I don't know about you, but when I graduated college, a lot of people were telling me it's the worst idea and why are you doing this? And it was a lot of my friends, but it was because they hadn't done it themselves. So when I started surrounding myself with people that had done it, they're like, bro, It can be one of the best ideas you've ever done. You also have to educate yourself, but you have to know that at one point it's overeducation. You have to take the leap. But when I started surrounding myself with more and more people and I saw that they were doing that, and the reality of their life that was the life that I wanted to live, I started being like, you know what? I'm going to take someone's advice with a grain of salt. If they're not somewhere where I want to be, if they're somewhere where I want to be, I'll put more weight on their advice. So what I will say is surround yourself with like-minded individuals, and that'll definitely propel you to get closer to that investing goal. Because a lot of people will tell you it's a bad idea. That's a reality, but it's probably people that haven't done it, you know? So surrounding yourself with a good group of solid people that are where you want to be, and I can assure you, you'll get closer to that goal. And also taking that leap of faith, because there's just so much that you can educate yourself on. If you don't take action, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. So well said. Leave us with how do people get in touch with you? How can they follow you on social? And how can they utilize you if they're in Austin or the surrounding areas and want to get an investment property or work with you? What's the best way for them to talk to you about that?
Yes. So for me, I usually use more of Instagram, and my handle is at Andres BustaTX. It's AndresBustaTX. And if you have any questions, just send me a DM. I answer through there. I also have TikTok, but I feel like I use more Instagram.
Well, Andreas, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you coming on here for a few minutes to share your wisdom, to share kind of some of your journey through house hacking and all of this. Keep inspiring people, brother, and just really appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Likewise, bro. Appreciate you.